Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we have to talk about Clearview AI because they're about to make us all a lot less private. Here's what's going on. This is coming from the Associated Press, and I think this is important. Now, if you don't remember this platform, Clearview AI is basically a controversial face recognition company that has built a massive photographic dossier of the world's people for use by the police, national government, and interestingly enough, also now the Ukrainian military. But now they're planning to offer this type of technology to banks and other private businesses. Now, Clearview AI's co-founder and CEO is a man named Juan Ton That, and he disclosed his plans this past Friday to the Associated Press in order to clarify a recent federal court filing that suggested the company was up for sale. And to quote Mr. Ton That, "We don't have any plans to sell the company." Instead, he said that they are basically planning to launch a new business venture to compete with the likes of Amazon and Microsoft in verifying people's identities using facial recognition. Now, this new quote-unquote consent-based product would use Clearview's algorithms and AI to identify a person's face and verify it, but it would not involve the basically massive and always growing trove of 20 billion plus images, which Mr. Ton That basically said is reserved for law enforcement users only. Such ID checks that can be used to validate bank transactions or for other commercial purposes are, quote, least controversial use case of facial recognition, according to him. Now, that's in contrast to the business practice for which Clearview, quite frankly, is known. This is why I've done a ton of videos and written on them and all these kinds of stuff, because they are known for collecting basically and scraping images posted on Facebook, YouTube, and essentially anywhere else that is publicly accessible on the internet. Now, regulators from Australia to Canada, France to Italy, etc., have taken measures to try and stop Clearview from scraping people's faces into their facial recognition engine without their consent. So far, tech giants like Google and Facebook have also attempted to stop Clearview as well. Facebook and Google, being two of the largest data miners on the planet, even consider Clearview AI a threat. A group of U.S. lawmakers earlier this year warned, quote, Clearview AI's technology could eliminate public anonymity in the United States. This is a concern that we all have with Clearview AI. Now, despite opposition from lawmakers, regulators, privacy advocates, and the websites that it scrapes for data, Clearview continues to rack up new contracts with police departments and other government agencies. And why not? Governments want to govern. They are not really built for privacy because oftentimes it's the antithesis of making it easier for law enforcement. And in the meantime, its ever-growing database has helped Clearview AI's artificial intelligence basically learn and grow more accurate. Now, one of the biggest known federal contracts that they have is with ICE. This is the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, particularly its investigative arm, which has used this technology to track down both victims and perpetrators of things like child exploitation and those kinds of things. Clearview in March also started offering these services, as I mentioned, free to the Ukrainian military, in part to help identify dead Russian soldiers using Clearview's repository of about 2 billion images scraped from Russian social media website Vkontakte, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologize to you, all you Russian speakers out there. I do not speak Russian. So this is obviously a very huge problem. They have a very poor track record of maintaining privacy. And if they are, let's say, having that artificial intelligence work for banks and private businesses, that is of deep concern. While they state that they won't use that trove of 20 plus billion images, only reserving it for government and law enforcement, who's to say that won't bleed over? They have not been consistent, essentially, in their veracity in the past, and I can point you to several articles, I can point you to several videos, podcasts, radio shows I've done on this kind of thing. So this is a huge problem, where we have cities here in the United States, as well as all over the world, now starting to ban facial recognition from public infrastructure or government infrastructure. Look at Oakland, California, for example. I believe San Francisco followed suit as well, next door to Oakland. We are looking essentially at Clearview blowing that out of the water, because if they are able to leverage this 20 billion plus image database of you, me, and everybody else that has ever been out there, and Lord knows I'm out there on social media, you are probably watching or listening to me right now via your favorite social media platform, this is a huge problem. we don't have consent to go into that, in the same way that if we want to verify our identity from a bank, we should have multiple options. And if the bank wants to take our picture and add it into a facial recognition database, what are their guarantees that this recognition database is private to us? Meaning they are not, Clearview is not leveraging, let's say, the picture I take at Chase Bank and then selling that to US Bank or vice versa. Those kinds of things, while they may not necessarily be using the 20 billion database image, and quite frankly, I don't take them at their word for that. I have no evidence beyond just their past works and past actions. What's to say they won't create an internal database now of this? So if I have an account at Chase Bank and US Bank, now I'm in both. Or if I'm in one, I'm automatically in the other. These are things that we need to discuss. These are things that essentially fly in the face of the right to privacy that's enshrined in the US Constitution, as interpreted by the Supreme Court, because I always get that question. So this is a huge issue. Clearview AI is a company I think that should basically cease to exist. And I think if we've got governments literally around the world attempting to regulate Clearview AI, that is a real clear sign that them expanding their business practices into the private sector is definitely not a good thing. And so that is your news of the day. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter, where apparently we'll all end up in Clearview AI's database. And feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well, where we'll also end up in Clearview AI's database. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please stay private. Thanks, everyone.